Welcome, everyone, to episode 8 of 360 Anything Goes. Thank you for tuning in. I am your host, Lance Brock. And this week on Anything Goes, that's right, talking Three Stooges once again. But this time on Anything Goes, this episode is mostly focused on Shemp Howard.
Gentlemen, that ain't for us. We're not gentlemen. Speak for yourself. Oh!
Since this will be the last episode of 360 Anything Goes in the month of September, the month also known as Shemptember, I thought have to do something to celebrate Shemptember. So on this episode of Anything Goes, going to be talking about Shemp, not just one short, mainly just kind of go over all over the shorts that I do like of him.
Gentlemen, that ain't for us. We're not gentlemen. Speak for yourself. Oh!
Oops, played the same one.
Gentlemen, I'm mortified. I'm at a loss for adjective.
That was the one I meant to play first, but accidentally hit the wrong button. So let's get on to it. Shemp Howard. But first, actually, I wanted to go back a little more. Last week, on episode 7, talked about soaps. And I might do that. I might talk about some soaps in the future on another episode of Anything Goes Again, or maybe other TV shows like other movies, or as the name of the podcast says, Anything Goes, anything and everything that I want to talk about, whatever I'm in the mood to. Just a couple weeks ago, episode 6, I talked about the Three Stooges with Curly, and believe me, I definitely plan on talking more about some of the Curly shorts in the future, maybe even a Joe Besser, one or two, but today is all about Shemp. Shemp was born March 11th, 1895, in Brooklyn, New York. His real name is Samuel Horwitz. He passed away on November 22nd, 1955 in Los Angeles. And I know most people, when they think about the Three Stooges, they usually think of Moe, Larry, and Curly, which of course Curly is great, but I think Shemp is also great too as well. And very funny. A lot of the shorts he is in are, I would even say, hilarious.
Open your mouth. Close your eyes. We're going to give you a big surprise.
And where I get the clips from is a Three Stooges app. I want to say it costs maybe $1.99 something, but it is a pretty good app. It's in the Apple App Store, and I'm sure Android probably has it too. I got that on my iPhone. And the first one I want to mention is might be my most favorite short of Shemp's, and that is called Heavenly Days. In this one, it's where Shemp dies, and he is in heaven with his Uncle Mortimer, who is actually played by Moe. And he was a very bad boy, as Uncle Mortimer explains, and he can't get into heaven, but Uncle Mortimer decides to give him another chance. And he tells him that he has to go back down to earth and reform Moe and Larry before he can get into heaven. In this short, Moe and Larry are actually his cousins, they say. And some of them, the shorts, they're brothers. Sometimes they're just friends or don't even know each other. But in this one, they are cousins. And his ghost does go back to Earth, hunts Moe and Larry. They show him with Vernon Dent playing the lawyer, was it? And he tries to rip them off, Moe and Larry, that is, out of the inheritance that Shemp left them. The money is in a sock, and not very much, but then Moe looks for more money in there, and there's a little pair of teeth that bite his finger. He puts them on Larry's nose, and the lawyer takes the money, Mr. Fleesom, but Shemp ends up getting the money back to Moe and Larry. Moe takes all the money, but then Shemp takes it from him and he puts it back in Larry's pocket, sticking up for him. And then Moe and Larry decide to invest, and they try to gyp some shysters with a fountain pen that writes under whipped cream. And they're all in this fancy place, and they have a butler. Shemp's ghost shows up and scares the butler. He gets a hat and coat, hands it to him, and the butler doesn't know who that belongs to since he didn't see anybody. Shemp asks Uncle Mortimer, he says, let him hear this, and then he sneezes. The butler says, Gesundheit. He says, wait a minute, who am I Gesundheiten? Since he just heard the sneeze but doesn't actually see anybody, he asks Moe and Larry if the coat and hat belong to either of them. And then they tell him that it belongs to their dead cousin Shemp. And he tells them he's probably in the room right now. And then his knees start knocking together. And then there's a knock on the door. And they tell him to go get the door. The butler says, feet, why don't you get going? And then finally he tells Moe and Larry that he will answer the door, but his heart ain't in it. And he goes, gets the door. It's the shysters. One of them says that the butler looks like he's seen a ghost. And he says, mister, you haven't seen the half of it. And there's definitely a lot of funny scenes here. They demonstrate the fountain pen that writes under whipped cream. And then Moe tells them that it has to be on low or else it'll overflow. Shemp ends up turning it on high so whipped cream goes everywhere. And then we cut back to Shemp in bed, who's on fire, and finally Moe and Larry notice that he's on fire. Moe says he's been smoking in bed again, and they go get the axe and a bucket of water to put him out. Larry ends up throwing the water at Moe, and then finally Shemp gets up, grabs the bucket, pours the water on the floor, then sits in the puddle to put the fire out. And he tells Mo and Larry about his dream, how they had a fountain pen that writes under whipped cream. Larry shoves a pie in his face, and they give him a pen and some paper, and they tell him to write under whipped cream. And then Shemp says, he starts to write a letter. He says, "Dear Uncle Mortimer." And this is one of the shorts that was also remade later on with Shemp. Like, there's quite a few they actually have. I don't remember the name of it right now. I don't have it up. But it wasn't bad. But I would say the original one, Heavenly Days, is definitely better out of the two. And some of the ones, the reason they did remake them were after Shemp passed away, and it was in the contract that they had to do so many shorts. And in some of them, they even used a double, and you can notice that in some of the shorts, some of the scenes that Shemp is in, that they don't show his face from it being a double. And also some of the scenes you can tell where Shemp disappears and it's just Mo and Larry, kind of like the last full short that Curly was in, Half-Wit's Holiday. He had a stroke while they were filming it, and you can see towards the end of it where Curly disappears during the big pie fight scene. So let's talk some more Shemp with some of the other shorts.
You know, there's 1,000 reasons why I shouldn't drink. Yep, 1,000 reasons, but I can't think of one right now. Did you come behind that rock or from under it?
Another one of the shorts I really like is Malice in the Palace, where they run a restaurant, Shemp, Mo, and Larry, and then there's a couple of guys come in, and they're looking for the diamond of King Rootin' Tootin'. And I have a clip from that actually right here.
Boy, if I hadn't ducked, we'd have collided sure. What a narrow escape.
As you can hear in that clip, Mo and Larry and Shemp are all running to the table, and Shemp ducks the plates and stuff that Mo and Larry had, and he talks about how he avoided them, but then he raises up and knocks them all over the place, knocking them all over the floor. Pretty funny scene there. And in this one, there's a really funny scene where the two guys there, the two princes, or they think they are princes at the time, order rabbit and hot dog, and we see that there are a dog and a cat in the restaurant, and it shows Larry going back to the kitchen, and the cat and dog are getting in his way, and when he's chopping the rabbit, I think it is, and he ends up stepping on the dog's tail, and the window drops on, or is it the window drops onto the dog's tail, and Larry steps on the cat's tail, and they end up making noise, and since the two princes out there, they hear the chomp, the chopping going on, and they think that it's the cat and the dog that he's doing that to, and they don't see the cat or dog. And then he comes out with the hot dog and the rabbit, and they think that Larry just served them up the cat and dog, and Mo and Shemp start to think the same thing too, and the princes actually make them sit down and eat it, and then while they're starting to eat it, the cat and dog actually get under the table, and they start to wag their tails and actually brushing up against the legs of Mo and Shemp. And there's a funny scene here where Shemp kind of touches the rabbit, and then the cat purrs, and they think that it's the food making that sound. And then finally, the cat and dog growl and go after each other, and then that scares them. They knock the table over. And then they end up beating up the guys because they're fake. They're just looking for the king, for the diamond of King Rootin' Tootin', and they stop them. And then, because the one is actually a doorman, Shemp says, "There's the door, man." And then they end up go looking for the diamond of King Rootin' Tootin'. For some reason, end up dressing up like this giant Santa Claus, all three of them. And they end up getting it. That's a really good short. Another good one, I'd say, is Sing a Song of Sixpence. And that is when they're tailors, and there's a bank robber, I think it is, Terry Hargan. He hides in the store, and they end up finding his money in a suit that he left. And there's a funny scene, Shemp and the ironing board, and you can find that clip actually on YouTube. I think you can search for Shemp versus the ironing board or something like that. Pretty funny. And that's another good one. I definitely recommend checking that one out.
I'm losing my mind!
Yep. Just had to play that one.
I got an uncle who can make things disappear. Is he a magician? No, he's a kleptomaniac.
And, yeah, so that's a good one, too. Also, Hold That Lion. And this one is a good one because it's the only one where Shemp, Mo, Larry, and Curly are all in together, only for about a minute. And it's where they're looking for Mr. Slip, and they're on a train, and they're looking for this guy, and they see a guy with a hat over his face sleeping, and they lift the hat up to see if it's him. And then at this time, we actually see Curly with some hair, actually, and he has a clothespin on his nose. And when they take it off, he starts snoring. The usual Curly sounds, barking too. And I know it's just for maybe just a little under a minute, but it's pretty good to see Curly and Shemp in the short together. Also, that was one of the other ones that was remade as well. Again, I don't remember what the name of the remake is. Or, yes, I do, actually. Now that I think about it, I want to say it was The remake was called Booty and the Beast. The original, Hold That Lion. Another one is Fright Night, where they are training a boxer, and then Shemp ends up getting in the ring, sparring a few rounds with them. Fiddlers 3, where they help out with the king saving his daughter, the princess. That is a pretty funny one as well. And there's even a 3D one. I want to say that one is called Spooks. That is pretty good. And I'm sure at the time that was probably the new thing, and with whole 3D and everything. I remember one time my granny bought me for my birthday, I think, a box set of Stooges DVDs. Really good. And another one is the Ghost Talks, where they talk to the suit of body armor. And I really like that one. That is a good one you should check out. And Shemp, definitely very funny. Every Saturday on MeTV, the Three Stooges air 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern. I definitely recommend checking them out. I watch every Saturday evening just before AEW Saturday Collision. And just in case if you notice my voice, not the best still, my allergies have been acting up the last few days or so. So I actually would like to keep talking more about Shemp, and who knows, might talk some more in the future, and maybe just talk about one short and talk about it more. But for now, I'm going to wrap up this episode of 360 Anything Goes. Thank you everyone for listening. Like I said earlier, definitely hope to have more episodes of Curly, where I talk about some of his shorts, and one of the Joe Besser ones that I do like. I want to say it's called Outer Space Jitters. And the reason I want to talk about that one is because in it is Dan Blacker, who plays Hoss Cartwright from Bonanza. And he plays kind of like this mutant thing. And the funny thing about that is, if you noticed at the beginning in the intro, they have his name up there, but they actually put Don Blacker on there instead of Dan. A little mistake there. And speaking of Dan Blacker, who played Hoss Cartwright, I definitely want to talk about an episode or two of Bonanza in the future right here on Anything Goes. That'll be pretty fun. And as far as next week goes, not sure yet. I think actually last week was the first time where I actually did announce what I was going to be talking about. But as of right now, I have no idea what I'm going to talk about next week. So that's why you got to pay attention and stay tuned. Also got a busy week coming up this weekend. WWE NXT No Mercy, the AEW Wrestle Dream pay-per-view on Sunday. Make sure you listen to Good Morning Wrestling Fans every morning, right here on Spreaker, YouTube, wherever you listen to podcasts. Also on the 360 Wrestling Podcasts YouTube channels as well. We have a new 360 unboxing on both channels, unboxing the September 2023 Pro Wrestling Crate with just me by myself this month and a guest appearance from my niece Madison. Unfortunately, this month, no Bruiser Brody. Hopefully he'll be back soon though. And thank you for listening to this episode of 360 Anything Goes. We'll be back next Thursday, 4 p.m. Eastern, for a new episode. Still don't know what I'm going to talk about yet, like I said. But just stay tuned. But until next week, see you later, alligator.